super, super special episode, Postcard Amy's with Amy and
Jeff.
Yes, here we go. So, we're back in Cape Town.
On a cold, cloudy day.
It's 66 degrees
Not
right
yet.
now.
That's
I guess that's a high. But we're back at the Cloud 9 Hotel. They are starting to recognize us, I think.
A little bit. They'll be glad when we're gone, I'm sure.
Probably. And we've had 3 different rooms. They're all quite nice. This last one, maybe not quite as nice, but it's only one night.
It was one night. It didn't matter. It was comfortable and quiet.
And the mattress was fabulous. Yes. So, but we were back from 5 days in the bush.
Up in Kruger National Park.
Kruger National Park and Lukembe.
Well, we were at the Lukembe Safari Hut Lodge.
And concession, they call it.
Concession.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they have a piece of land that they maintain, and which is direct. It's part. It's attached to.
I think we should do a start over.
Why?
Because when you did the thumbs up, a bubble appeared in front of your face.
Who cares about that?
Okay.
People like that.
They do.
See, it only works once.
Anyway,
yeah,
the concession is a piece of land that sits outside the main part of Kruger.
Yes.
And they get a 20-year concession to operate on the property. Now, the main part of Kruger itself, if you could imagine, is a park the size of New Jersey. And you're tracking down pairs of animals that there may only be 300 individuals in the state of New Jersey, and you're driving all over, up and down, looking for them. So it is quite the adventure. But first, we had to fly from Cape Town up to Kruger.
Yes.
There's an airport there that sits relatively close. It was still a 2-hour drive.
2-hour drive to our lodge. Now, distance-wise, it probably wasn't that far.
No, but once you get on the dirt road, you can only go 20 kilometers an hour.
Exactly.
12 miles an hour.
I bet it wasn't 60, 70 miles away.
I would guess it's less than that.
Yeah. The highway part went pretty fast.
Yes.
But then once you get on the park itself, it's all dirt roads, and it's very bumpy. Yeah. And, you can't go too fast. And as you're driving into the park,
you're seeing animals.
So you want to stop and look at them because it's so exciting. Though, not the optimal way to do your animal viewing through a van window.
Yeah.
So I was anxious to get there. So we got there. We got all settled in. We had to sign this disclosure saying that, if we get eaten by a lion, we're not going to sue them.
Yeah. We're probably dead if that happens.
Yeah.
But
nobody was hurt, so it was good. Yeah. So when we're going to talk about the lodge and stuff on the next episode because it's beautiful. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what it is to go on a game drive. So exciting. We arrived at about 1. We had lunch at 2.
Yes.
And then
in the van at 3:30.
3:30 for our very first drive, which they were all 3 hours long. So I went from 3:30 to 6:30, and
we went from late afternoon heat to cooling weather. As soon as the sun goes down, the temperature
So
drops
you're ending
quickly.
in pitch dark.
Yes.
The van, very much like the vans that we had in those other limited safaris, though it was a Toyota
Hilux.
Oh, I think it was a Land Rover. It was a.
It's Toyota Hilux.
Oh, a Hilux. Was it?
Yes.
Big, powerful Jeep. This thing was a monster. There were room for 6 of us in the back. We have a guide who drives.
The Ranger.
And he tells us answers our questions, tells us cool facts about the animals, everything.
But who
Fabulous.
sits over the front bumper?
The tracker. So he sits out there. I don't know how he doesn't bounce off, right? So our tracker's name was Stranger.
Yes.
So every time he said his name, people said, "What?" Stranger. Oh, okay, Stranger. So he'd been working for the lodge for 21 years.
Yes.
And he was born in the bush. And so he had learned all of his trekking skills as a child. And probably from his
Parents and grandparents.
Exactly. So we're really lucky to have him as our tracker, I think.
Oh, he had bionic eyes. It was unbelievable.
He saw a chameleon in a tree.
In the dark.
In the dark. What? I mean, how was that
We
possible?
were going about 12 miles an hour. He's using his spot to look for things in the dark as we're driving back. And he gives the stop sign. You just have to brush it. You don't have to do it.
Oh, okay.
And so we back up, and sure enough, there's this chameleon that has his tail curled up in the shape of a leaf. Looks just like a leaf on the branch he was on. And he just blended right in. It was amazing.
So I will tell you, being on a game drive is not dissimilar to fishing. Because sometimes you throw your line in and you wait. And you wait. and you wait. And sometimes you get lucky and you get bites all day. So we had some of both kinds of drives. I will also say those roads are very bumpy. So you're doing a lot of this. I actually had to brace my feet against the front. And it kind of helps to support my back. And of course, I've got stuff that we're trying to hold on to. Jeff's got his good cameras. So I'm trying to make sure they don't go bouncing off. And we've got binoculars, and I've got a cell phone, so so I can capture. Jeff's doing all the still photography, and I'm doing all the video. So that was kind of our plan of attack. It worked really well.
It worked well. I think so.
Yeah. These guys, they're bouncing around on the road, but if they see something that's not on the road, no problem. Off we go. And sometimes they drive right over trees. Little trees,
Bushes.
Obviously.
Bushes.
It was incredible. And then sometimes we go down these deep embankments and up, where the water, where riverbeds or dry riverbeds. It was like being on a ride. So they have a word for this, right? Do you remember the phrase?
No.
You're getting an African
massage. That's right.
I definitely could have used one.
So the life at the camp, at the lodge, is very regimented.
Yeah.
You get a wake-up call at 5:30, and if you're already up and moving, you have time to go grab some biscotti, some biscuits, shortbread, and a cup of coffee. Then we start loading up 6 o'clock and heading out. And
pitch dark again.
Pitch dark. It is chilly. This time of day, it's in the 50s. So when you get into the Jeep, you have a nice little surprise.
I'm going to get one.
It.
And a water bottle.
And a hot water bottle. When was the last time you saw a hot water bottle?
I think I need one. It was wonderful.
It was pretty cool. So you had this hot water bottle to help keep your hands warm if you wanted.
And you put it on your lap.
Put it on your lap.
It made all the difference.
Yeah, covered up in the blanket. And there you go. You're heading out into the bush at 6:05 in the morning, bouncing along. So it's not just the temperature, it's the wind chill as we're going.
Well, because we're going pretty fast. And the Jeep is completely wide open.
Yep.
There's
wind
no
chill
wind
down.
chill, there's no windows, so you're just exposed to the wind, which is wonderful when you see something.
Yeah.
It gets a little brisk, yes. And then about halfway through the drive, maybe a little towards the end, we always have a little stop.
Yes, we do. In the morning, we have a coffee break. And they set up a little table with coffee, hot chocolate,
and more
snacks.
biscotti, the little cookies.
Yes.
And
you're just standing there looking around, And one day we were in the middle of nowhere, it looked like. And then all of a sudden,
Couldn't see anything. Yeah.
once you got your bearings and quieted down, all of a sudden you look all around the periphery, and we saw a wildebeest, a dozen zebras, a couple jackals running by. Those things are cool looking, but fast.
Yeah.
And then you just start looking all around and you see all these animals and birds. It's like, where did they come from?
Yeah, it's like looking in water. It takes a minute for your eyes to adjust, and of course I really found the tracks really interesting. So Stranger was helping me to tell the difference between a wildebeest and an impala, and
which way an elephant walks.
Yes, I also know how to identify a hippo track and an elephant track. Very fun, very cool.
And what's interesting about elephant tracks, they walk in a line. So sort of like humans do, your foot comes around and walks a line, and you can actually see the difference in the size of the front paw versus the rear. And one's a little rounder on the front, bigger, and the rear is a little ovaloid, and you can kind of draw a V from the outside to the tip of the rear foot, and the apex of the V indicates the direction the elephant was walking.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
So elephants were actually, we can start with that. We're going to talk on this episode about the Big Five, because everybody talks about the Big Five in Africa, and it's supposedly a thing to be able to see all of them with your own eyes. And, which I think we had the Big Five in 2 days.
We got lucky. We had a lot of sightings our first 2 days.
So elephant was one. Anything else about elephants you want to say?
No, except they're huge.
They can be.
The males are upwards to at least 6 tons or more, and the tusk. So if you remember our pictures from the Southeast Asian elephants, they had no tusk.
Right.
These guys have tusk.
And I think their ears are bigger.
Yes. And the adult male, the tusk can weigh up to 100 pounds for the pair.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, having 100 pounds hanging off your head.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the other thing we learned, elephants are handed, either left or right. And you can tell by looking at their tusk, the one they use most as a tool will be a little bit shorter and be rounded down from constant use, whether it's pulling bark from a tree, digging, or anything else, whereas the other one stays sharper, and that's his fighting tusk.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting.
Absolutely. Now, our little cottage, all the little cottages had a nice little veranda on them, and we're sitting there one day, and there's a small river right in front of us. We saw
a parade of elephants.
There must have been 20 of them.
20 to 25.
Yeah, just right there. Yeah, just walking
Come
by.
around. Little families with the mother and the babies.
And they were at the watering hole and squirting each other, and do, and
Well,
So we were out there watching them, and
all of a sudden other people started noticing, and everyone was out on their balconies looking at the animals.
And there were really two groups. So there was one group on this side, and then another group on this side. So,
and that was followed by the third.
And then then we saw a lone male come through.
The ranger said he was part of it. He's just picking up the
behind.
rear.
Yeah.
And and at one point they all got in a line and just trailed off into the distance from us. Now, even though we're talking about elephants, from our balcony we also saw a giraffe. We saw the water buffalo come and visit a couple days.
Also in the Big Five. So
that
you've
is in the
got
Big
elephants and water buffalo. So we had a water buffalo in front of us several times.
Yes.
He liked the water.
It must have been part of his terrain.
I guess his
area.
Territory. He also had laid down in a hole. Did he dig that hole and lay down in it, or the hole was already there?
The hole was there, but it was sized to him. I bet he'd worked on it
probably
over a few days. So he soaked in the shade for quite a while, and then eventually came out on the sand and looked around his hole, made sure it was good, and he just plopped himself down in the sand and was asleep.
Now, we didn't see a lot of water buffalo on our drives. Mostly we just saw the one guy that was in front of us. So, yeah, we were seeing other things on our drives that we'll get to.
Yes.
So, the third of the big five is, let me look.
The rhinoceros.
Rhino. So we did see a lot of rhinos. I was quite surprised. We got to hear all about the tusks and the rhinos, and they have to remove the tusks
To keep them from being
poached because the tusk, the horn rather, is so valuable.
Yes.
What do you say? It was
$1 million.
an ounce or something.
No, I thought that was for the whole horn.
Oh.
So $1 million in rand is a lot of money. And the reason they do it, even though it's if you get caught, it's 25 years in prison,
Mm-hmm.
but a chance to make $1 million.
Does say change their life forever.
Yeah.
And probably their children's, and it's hard. So our ranger Julian was telling us how they remove the tusks. He said they wait until they turn about 4, and then they come in on a helicopter and they tranquilize them. They remove it with a chainsaw.
Well, that was the poachers, but I'm sure.
No. Okay. No, I thought he said because they wanted to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's what the poachers do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he didn't go in, he didn't talk about how they did it, but maybe the same way. But the tusk keeps growing.
Yes.
The horn.
Yes, so they have to redo it about every 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Because even the stub and
Mm-hmm.
the ones we saw were probably 4 or 5 inches, still flat from the previous cut.
Mm-hmm.
That's worth, that little 4 inches is worth more than gold, platinum, most precious
diamonds.
metal you can think of.
Yeah. He did say that also if you remove a horn from one rhino, you have to do them all because a rhino with a horn would be able to kill every other horn.
All of them.
And he said even a baby with a horn would be able to kill a dominant male.
Yeah.
So the rhinos were fabulous. We did see quite a few of them. We saw some babies. Very exciting. They're the second largest land animal next to an elephant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mammal. Land mammal.
Mammal. Okay.
But see, that gets kind of confusing. Well, it's land, so it takes the
The
whales
whales.
out of the equation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was land mammal. You're correct.
Love rhinos. I've always liked rhinos very much.
So apparently they're blind as
Yes.
a bat,
Mm-hmm.
but they have incredible hearing and sense of smell.
Mm-hmm. And they often, they have birds that are on their back, and they use the birds as kind of an alarm system. If the birds squawk and go off, they know to be on alert.
But they're there also eating the ticks
Yes.
off the backs, keeping
Yes.
the animals clean.
Mm-hmm. Symbiotic.
Symbiotic relationship, yes. The other thing we found interesting, if you're going through the bush and you can see the difference between how an elephant eats and how a rhino, the elephants typically try to strip the leaves from the branches.
Or just grab them. Yeah.
Or just grab them,
Yeah.
But
Rip 'em out.
you basically leave a skinny stalk because you've scraped all the leaves off of it. So that means an elephant's been eating. But if you find branches that are chomped at a perfect 45-degree angle, because the way rhinos eat, with their big nose, they can't really approach things straight on without getting poked.
Right.
So they come in from the side, and their cut mark is a 45-degree angle on the branch. So you can, in tracking terms, if you see that,
You're on the trail.
you're on a trail of a rhino.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So that was 3. A big one we haven't talked about. Lions.
Lions.
So cool. So our very first night, we saw lions our first day. Now some people saw lions on the drive-in. We didn't see any lions on the drive-in. But our first drive, we ended the night with 2 lions. and they were so exciting. I will tell you, we were able to drive up.
Oh, within 5-6 feet.
It was incredible.
Now they were asleep. We woke them up.
They were, yes, very tired because of what they had been doing. So.
Are we saving that for drama night?
Well, I guess so. So we can come back to what they were doing.
Okay.
But so it was a male and a female. So we got to see a male up close. He was just absolutely gorgeous.
Big
His
black
mane.
mane.
Oh, we also saw. I remember we saw
So
another lion.
He was coming down the trail straight towards us.
Yes, and he was a lone male, and he was marking his territory. And Julian told us the way that you could tell that he was a dominant male and had a territory is you look for the black streaks on the back of his legs, because that's urine that's leaking down and discoloring his coat.
Well,
Because that's how a cat sprays.
The lion sprays the bushes,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll use his back side to smear it all around the bush to make a good mark.
You know
at
how
anybody.
cats do. You know, they rub and they spray. If you have a cat, you know about spraying.
So if you see the black stains about down the back of the legs, you know he's a dominant, an alpha male.
And he was beautiful too.
He was.
And we saw 7 cubs,
Yes.
little cubs. They were all together. It was like a little nursery. He said they were from 2 different mothers.
It
And
looked like 5 of them stayed together pretty close. So I don't know if
it's
that
probably a little bit of a pack mentality, right? So they were on the road. There were quite a few of us enjoying their company. We couldn't get quite as close to them because, of course, they were cautious, and you don't know how close Mama is.
You don't want to get between them and the mama.
Exactly. They were just as cute as I could be. I couldn't stand it. You know, you just want to go up and hug them.
Yeah, pet 'em. One of the little guys thought people were getting too close, and you'll see a photo of his mighty. He didn't have a roar yet. He sounded more like an alley cat. He went, "Meow." Then he was done.
Yeah.
But he looked pretty fierce.
And then eventually they just got up and they started walking
Down
one
the
right
trail.
after the other down the trail. And that was the end of that show. They were
That
just
was a
as
great
sweet
show.
as they could be.
So the exciting thing was we were in the concession at the time, and the other rangers were all coordinating on this sighting. So he says, "Get ready for Ferrari Safari." And he says, "Hold on." And we were zooming through the bush, bouncing and going everywhere. But he got us there in time
He did.
to
We
see
got
them
to
all.
see him.
But we
Yeah.
had to stop when we entered the main part of Kruger.
Yeah.
We had to stop and put our windshield up, and Stranger had to move out of the spotter chair into the truck
Yeah.
because they didn't allow that in the
Yeah.
in the main part.
Right, right.
So-
And there's a speed limit inside the main part too, only 30
Yeah.
miles an hour.
Yeah.
As if you could go 30.
Well, I think we were pushing it. So there
Oh,
are
yeah.
there are some smoother stretches of the
That's
road
true.
that
Yeah.
aren't game tracks and trails. But
I tell you, Max Verstappen could learn something from Julian because this guy was a great driver.
oh boy, he was scooshing around the curves. You could feel the tail drifting a little bit.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he would give it a bit of gas. to
Never
get it
got
under
stuck.
control. No.
Never.
I was almost going to ask the question, has he ever gotten stuck? But I figure that's a tacky question.
Well, it's bound to have happened. I
Oh.
asked if he had ever had an Impala jump out in front of him and hit one. He said never.
Never.
Like, of course not. And that happens all the time at home.
Maybe the Impala seemed a little smarter than deer.
That's what he said.
When you came up to them, they looked at you and then turned the other way. And
He
went.
said, your deer must not be very clever. So that's 4 of the 5. The 5th one is kind of the crown jewel. Even better than a lion is a leopard. Now you'll remember we saw leopards in Sri Lanka. These are slightly different.
Very similar, though.
Similar, beautiful. So
They were a little bigger and a little leaner.
yeah. Our second night, Of course, they're all talking on the radio, squawk, 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 if, one finds, so they coordinate, they want to give everybody the best experience. So we found one up in a tree, and we Ferrari'd over there, and we were able to see this leopard up in a tree. Now, by this point, it was pretty dark night.
It was.
Yeah.
It's night.
It was a male. I don't remember.
Yes.
The first one was male, and then we saw another leopard the next night. And
that was a female.
yes, and
Still quite a large animal.
absolutely, yes. So she was up in a tree, but then she came down out of the tree.
You're going into different episodes.
I know, but and then Julian's following her with the Jeep. I mean, just in complete off-road, just through these bushes, he's following this animal. It was incredible. And in the front, Stranger is indicating with his light where to drive. So he's telling him, what's right in front of him, the best flow route. And all the while he's doing that, he's also watching the cat. So that, and we're trying to help him say, there, she's over there. And Julian says, he knows where she is. Please.
No help from the audience.
It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, that was the big five on within the first couple days.
Well, and then something else we did, which was the greatest fun of all for me, I thought, was we got to do a river walk.
Yes.
I loved that. So we did ride the Jeep there, and in the Jeep we saw some things along the way, but we go down to Crocodile River.
Yes.
Full of crocs. And we get out. Now, Stranger didn't come on this. It was Julian and another guide. They both had their high-powered
rifles.
Yeah, tell them about the guns.
Well, they were single shot bolt with I forgot the cartridge. It was a 480 something.
And he said they weren't.
They're not the hollow points. They're
Not
round
hollow
points.
Yes.
Because the hollow points will just hit the hippopotamus's head and flatten out, and he'll shrug it off. And he says, then they'll kill you 12 ways. So yeah, they have round heads that can even penetrate the 2.5 inches of skull, make up these large hippos. And the hippos are big. We've got some good shots. We got close to one, and he was not happy with us getting real close, so he showed us his stuff.
That wasn't on the Riverwalk, but on like this.
I know.
Yes, but back to the Riverwalk. So we get out of the Jeep, and he's showing us the guns, and he's showing how, okay, there's not one in the chamber. I check it twice. I'm always going to carry the gun as if it's loaded, and then
he put a bullet in.
Yeah, he did.
And then saved it. Put the rifle on safe.
I see. He said, just don't walk in front of me. The other guide went off ahead, and he was kind of scouting, making sure probably there weren't any lions or anything in the area.
Lions or crocodiles.
Oh my. He said, now we're going to walk down, and while we're walking, no talking. If you need to ask me a question or you need something, just click your fingers or make a sound.
Hoop.
Hoop, hoop. So follow me, and if I stop, you stop. Try and stay in my footsteps. So it was all very serious. So he said, when we get down close to the riverbed, we're going to find a rock and sit down as quickly as you can.
And just be still for a little
And be
bit.
still. He said the hippos will see you and they'll react. He said after a few minutes they'll settle down, and then we can move closer. Once they know that we're not coming in the water, they won't. Yes. Now, another thing he told us, hippos kill more people than any other animal. 300 a year die.
Yep.
In Kruger or in South Africa.
I thought it was in Kruger.
Yeah, so, yeah. And I'm like, are
When you
people
see
just
how big they
careless?
are,
Or?
no, I think they're crazy.
Yeah.
And the hippos don't float or swim. They just stand in water up to their eyes and just sort of hang out in the water, and all you see are their ears and eyes and their nostrils. You don't see the rest of them. It's like an iceberg. So we saw a group, and it was hard to count them because they dive under the water and they can stay down for 5-6 minutes. But at one point on the surface, I counted like 16 down in this area that we had visuals on. And then you'd see another one pop up, and don't know if they swam, but there was a lot of hippos.
And they called out to each other, which was really cool. I tried to get that, but I didn't. They only did it to one time, and I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Well, we had the one group in front of us that was at least a pack of five. I don't know what you call it. Group of rhinos. We should hippos.
I don't know.
Hippos. We should have looked that up.
Pod.
Is it a pod? It is a pod. You're
It's
right.
a pod.
It's a pod.
Because they're closely related to whales and dolphins.
Yes.
Kind of counterintuitive, but
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to remember why. Oh, because they can swim underwater and then pop out and snort like a whale does, and capture air and then go back underwater if he wants to. So we were pretty okay, but the pod of five in front of us, I'm guessing it was the alpha. He kept his eyes on us, and he was like real sneaky, like we didn't see him. He'd go underwater and he'd pop back up maybe 4 feet closer. He'd look at us and he'd just pretend like he wasn't bothering us. And eventually he moved close enough that we could see him pretty well. And he made some snort noises and all. And at that point, the ranger said, they're getting upset with our presence. It's time to go.
Time to go. So, we walked back in a line, and and we met back up at the Jeep, and that was just a thrilling experience. I just, I never done anything like that. I don't expect to ever get to do anything like that again.
Yeah, unless we go back and try it.
That could happen.
That could happen. I just, we were so fortunate. You'll hear about that in later episodes and what we saw. I could tell you how wonderful it was, and we could go. We had a couple couples that they just didn't feel like going because they didn't feel like they were seeing enough. And
they were on the one drive that really was less. We saw the least, but we had some thrilling things that happened.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of luck. Now on the way back from the river drive, we come up the road, and there's this enormous elephant just on the side of the road, and he's walking. And Julian said he's heading for that tree because there's these special fruit that's on there that elephants love. So we get right up to him. He goes right to that tree. He sticks the trunk of the tree in between his two tusks, and he shakes the tree. And the fruit falls down. He plops them up with his trunk. He eats a few. And then he does it again.
So what he's doing is he puts his weight behind his forehead, which is directly on the tree, and he bends it. And then at the last minute, he lets go, and the tree springs back, causing the berries to fall. I mean, you could see the tree moving under his weight.
How did we get to see that?
I don't know. That was pretty neat.
Incredible. Even the guide was like, "Did you get that video? Because I think I'd like to have that." So
I think that's about it.
Well, no.
No, what else?
We've got a few other things because that's for the next episode. So one of the greatest things we got to see that almost no one gets to see. We saw two things, so we're saving the other one for tomorrow night. But they call it the Magnificent Seven. So we actually saw
the 7
cheetahs. We saw 3 brothers. They were a coalition. So they hunt together. They live together. Yeah. And less than 1% of park visitors get to see cheetahs.
Yes.
We saw
So
3.
that was where the 300 came from. So in this park, like I said, it's bigger than the state of New Jersey if you include the concessions we were in. There's 300 animals in that whole area, and we got to see 3. That was pretty amazing. And we actually saw them chasing an animal called
a daker.
A daker. And this was a fast critter. And we were on the trail road, and all of a sudden, here comes this daker, and he sprung clear across the road, probably another 5-6 feet before he hit the ground running. And all of a sudden, here came the 3 leopards right behind him. I mean, cheetahs. And,
well, I mean, this animal was running for his life.
Yes.
So he probably was running at the high, as fast as he could. Now, the cheetahs didn't catch him.
No.
And they found a nice open spot. That's what they like, because they
see.
They kind of sit in a circle, and each one is looking in a different direction. And you can just see them. Their heads are moving all the time. And they let us get close. We were within 20 feet of them.
Yeah. The thing they didn't like, and who doesn't like them, are the zebras, or as they call them there, zebras.
Why don't they like the zebras? Zebras.
Because they're enemies, and the zebras are pretty powerful.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
So the cheetahs are the weakest of the cats out there. So the lions can take them, the leopards can take them.
And even though
a hyena.
Yes. Now, even though they're the fastest land animal there is, right? They can go up to 60 miles an hour in a sprint. They use so much energy when they run that even if they get a kill, they don't have enough energy to eat it right away.
Yeah, they have to rest.
Or to protect it if,
yeah,
like you say, a hyena comes up or some other animal. So, yeah.
So having a coalition, they're able to be a little more defensive.
Well, and I imagine it helps them to triangulate on to prey as well.
Yes.
So I got to tell you, yes, to see cheetahs with your own eyes in the wild. Who gets to do that?
I'm telling you, that was
good, clean living.
Yep. And then the last of the Magnificent Seven is also a very rare species.
We're going to talk about that in the next episode.
Oh.
Yeah, one for each day.
Okay.
Take away tomorrow's drama.
All right.
So we did get to see, you'll remember we talked about the lions. So every night we had a little bit of drama. The very first night we had the lions, the 2 that we saw.
Couple.
Yeah,
yes.
We actually got to see them mate. Now, I didn't get a video of that because this is a PG podcast, so, yeah.
Oh, we say it's not approved for children to die.
We do, but, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, it's poor women. If you yawned, it was over that quick.
It was very fast. And
when they're in heat, the female, the reason they didn't care about us, they were exhausted,
right,
because they go at it every 20-30 minutes
for hours
for 4 days straight, and then they're done. But to actually witness it in the wild, it was like
Animal Kingdom,
an adult version of Marlon Perkins.
Yeah. Indeed.
Jim, go get in the middle.
Poor Jim.
So yes, that was the adventure of the night.
It was. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover on this one, because we're getting pretty long for time, and we want to save some stuff for the next one.
Yes.
So today's postcard is going to Chip and Betty.
Yes.
In Maryland, whose identity we sometimes borrow. If we want to be anonymous, so we're Chip and Betty, but always good for a laugh, and they're good sports.
From Iowa.
Yeah, Chip and Betty. We're the Chip and Betty from Iowa.
Yeah,
yes,
there you
absolutely. Go. Which completely differentiates us.
Yes. Okay. Well,
all right.
We're going to say goodbye, folks. And,
goodbye.
We'll
Make sure you tune in again, because we got lots more exciting stuff to talk about.
Do we ever?
Wait, just wait. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.